The 1960s Batman TV series. The wacky, zany, and highly comical beloved TV series which came out at a time when The Dark Knight wasn't so dark. The Batman TV show was broadcast on channel ABC from 1966 to 1968 and starring the lovable Adam West as Bruce Wayne and his crime-fighting superhero alter ego, Batman, along with the equally lovable Burt Ward as Dick Grayson and his sidekick alter ego, Robin Boy Wonder. Despite the fact that the show was made for laughs and was somewhat a spoof, if anything showcasing how comic books and superheroes were observed at the time, the Batman TV show has gone down as one of the most beloved and most celebrated TV shows of all time, as we see Batman and Robin on never-ending adventures to save Gotham City from some of the most wackiest supervillains of all time. So at a time when superhero stories must be dark and brooding, let's go back to a more psychedelic laid-back era of the swinging 60s, the time of bat surfing, the bat dance, and shark-repellent bat spray. The time when you just can't get rid of a bomb, as we explore the wonderfully silly and ridiculous Batman TV series. So in today's episode, we are going back to the time of the hippies, as we explore 10 amazing facts about the Batman TV show. A strong representation of what superheroes looked like in the 1960s. And oh boy, were they bright and colourful, with lots of humour and cheese to boot. So, let's check it out. Number 10. The show brought back Alfred from the dead. Even in the swinging 60s, Batman could always rely on his trusty butler, Alfred Pennyworth. It seems that no matter what rendition of Batman you're watching, the elderly British gentleman with a dry wit will always be there at the Caped Crusader's side to assist with his superhero needs, while often being the voice of reason. However, what people may not know is that the 1960s Batman TV series revived the character and brought him back into mainstream Batman mythology, as the character was killed off several years earlier in a comic book. Yes, it was Detective Comics issue 328, back in 1964, when a poor old Alfred was crushed by a falling boulder, to which eventually in the comics, Alfred would come back as an undead villain known as the Outsider. However, due to the popularity of the TV show, Alfred was returned to his normal good-natured form in 1966 in Detective Comics 356. Thank God for that, because imagine if we were stuck with the undead zombie version of Alfred in the Batman universe forevermore. Number 9. Egghead has become part of the DC universe. Every other day, every other day, every other day of the week is fine. Batman has always had a vast selection of supervillains to deal with, in order to save Gotham City from terrifying foes who want to cause trouble for their own greedy, selfish needs. And there were indeed some villains that were made purely for the 1960s TV series, including King Tut. However, one villain in particular who seemed to have left his mark is that of the character Egghead, a big bald-headed evil genius played by the legendary Vincent Price, who liked to use the term "egg-zactly," who no doubt gave Batman a few headaches during the psychedelic 60s. However, the character left his mark on the Batman mythology, as he has returned to the Batverse several times, including 1989's Secret Origin Special, Batman Shadows of the Bat, issue 3 in 1992, and Gotham Academy 15 in 2016. This isn't the first time a villain created for a Batman TV show would officially become part of the DC universe either. Case in point, Harley Quinn, who was a character who was originally created for the 90s cartoon series The Adventures of Batman, who has gone on to become one of the most celebrated characters in the Batman mythology. Number 8. Batgirl was introduced to try and save the show. In April 1961, Batgirl leaped her way onto the cover of Batman Detective Comics 139. However, the character never really took off. But nevertheless, after the second season of the 1960s Batman TV show, ratings were very low and the show was risking cancellation. So in order to breathe new life into the series, and to get people back onto their Bat sofas to tune into their favourite Bat channels, it was decided to introduce Batgirl into the series, to make the dynamic duo into the dynamic trio. A short pilot was put together in order to entice ABC TV executives to greenlight a third series, in which Batgirl takes on a villain known as the Killer Moth, which was obviously enough to bring the show back for a third season. And there were supposedly even plans for Batgirl to have her own spin-off TV series. But sadly, the Bat ratings didn't pick up and the show was Bat cancelled. And the Batgirl character will always be seen as an attempt to revive a dying show. So, I guess you could say that Batgirl was a jump the shark moment before jump the shark moments even existed. So, it was a swing the Batgirl moment? Number 7, the Batsuit was going to look a little bit different. Don't ever set me free. I always wanna be by your side. In Adam West's screen test for him playing the part of the Caped Crusader, we can see that the Bat costume that he is wearing is pretty much the same, except for one detail. The Batman logo on his chest is completely different to the one they went with in the actual show. The logo seen in the test footage represents the traditional Bat logo which had been seen in the comic books from 1939 all the way up into the 60s. However, by 1964, the yellow oval-shaped logo was adopted, and this new look was becoming more and more popular in regards to the image of Batman. So when it came time to roll the cameras for the actual series, I'm guessing a wardrobe adjustment was required, so the show can keep up with the times, and thus the yellow oval-shaped logo was then used. Yeah, it's a tiny detail, but still a detail that goes a long way. By the way, has anyone else noticed that in recent years, the yellow oval Batman logo seems to have completely disappeared? Also, I can't help but notice that the ears look a little bit bigger in the test footage too. Number 6. Burt Ward had to use pills to shrink his... ward? The show's production team was frequently trying to maintain a child-friendly atmosphere for the show, and would act on complaints made by parents and religious groups, whether those complaints be about the use of violence or rude sexual undertones. However, one whopping complaint was in regards to Robin actor Burt Ward's package, as it was felt by an organisation with too much spare time and way too much interest in Ward's crotch that Ward's bat equipment looked too big and stuck out too much and was too indecent. So what was the show's answer to resolving this battle of the bulge? By doing the most obvious thing. Nope, not ignoring the complaints, but by giving Ward special pills in order to make his bulge area look not so bulgy. In other words, to shrink his ward. To be honest, I'm just glad he didn't suffer any permanent damages or side effects from these pills. Okay, that's it. This is getting weird. When it gets to the stage where I'm having to go into detail about Burt Ward's bat bulge is when I have to draw the line. I'm just not really too sure if I can keep going with this episode today, to be honest, after that. Will Minty end up finishing the rest of his Batman review? Can he overcome the bulging boundaries of Burt Ward's crotch? Is there any hope that this video can be finished? Will he suffer the wrath of the YouTube adpocalypse for talking about such issues? What is with that Coke can in the background? That is indeed pretty random. Find out in just a few moments. Same mint time, same mint channel. Number 5. There were 3 Catwomen, 3 Mr. Freezes, and 2 Riddlers. The Batman TV show would see a variety of different actors taking on the same role, particularly when it comes to the villains. as Catwoman would be played by Julie Newmar in Season 1 and 2, Lee Mayweather played the role in the theatrical Batman movie, and Eartha Kitt played the part in the 3rd season. Mr. Freeze, who, by the way, was originally called Mr. Zero in the comics, who was then called Mr. Freeze thanks to the Batman TV show, was also played by 3 actors, including George Sanders, who kind of looked like an astronaut gone rogue, then Otto Preminger, who terrorised the Dark Knight with his evil ginger eyebrows of death, and then finally the character once again got a new face and new hair, but no more ginger eyebrows, in the form of Eli Wallach. Then there's the Riddler, who actually wasn't a popular character in the comics and only showed up a few times, who then became a mainstream villain thanks to the popularity of the Batman TV show, as he was played devilishly by Frank Gorshin, who actually won an Academy Award for his performance as the Riddler in the episode Hi Diddle Riddle. But he couldn't return for the 2nd season, so he was replaced by John Ashton, best known for the Addams Family. At the time the TV show was broadcast, the character Two-Face was big in the Batman comics, but he was never used in the series as it was decided that Two-Face's backstory of a man being hideously scarred by acid as being too violent and grotesque for the family feel the show was going for. Thankfully though, Two-Face was eventually introduced in the TV show's universe in the 2017 animated movie Batman vs. Two-Face. Number 4. Adam West couldn't be Bond because of Batman. Adam West will always have a fond place in the hearts of those who grew up watching the Batman TV show. Yes, he played the part in a cheesy way and in a comically serious way, which made the audience feel like they were part of the joke of how bizarre the show actually was, but damn it if West didn't just come across as so fun and likeable. And in addition to that, he was actually a pretty cool, slick guy. So much so that James Bond producer Albert R. Cubby Broccoli caught his eye on the superhero actor and offered him the role of James Bond, of which Sean Connery had just left the role. West was interested, but sadly couldn't take on the role of the world's famous super spy due to being contractually obliged to play Batman for the small screen TV series. Damn, all we need to hear next is that Adam West performed with the Beatles. Then he would have been connected to all 3 of the famous Bs of the 1960s. Number 3. Story behind the Joker. In the Batman TV series, Cesar Romero played the role of Batman's number 1 troublemaking villain, the Joker. And he did so with such joyful delight. Okay, this portrayal isn't very villainous as such. I mean, he's more of a hyperactive jackass than he is an evil foe, but you can just tell that Romero is having a blast playing the Joker, which makes his rendition of the character so enjoyable. However, there was one minor makeup issue with Romero's Joker look, that being that Romero had a moustache and refused to shave it off. Now, if you think Superman's digital moustache removal in the Justice League looks bad, well, back in 1966, they just literally painted over Romero's moustache. And when you see a close-up of Romero's Joker, you can clearly see his furry man-tash. But I don't mind it. It kind of goes with how bizarre his Joker is. Also, Frank Sinatra himself was actually eyeing up the role of the Joker when the show was going into production. So had Romero's moustache been too much of an issue, we may have even had a Sinatra version of the Clown Prince of Crime. Speaking of famous faces in Batman, this TV series actually introduced the world to Bruce Lee. Lee would go on to become the most famous on-screen martial artist, but his on-screen roots started all the way back in the late 60s, when he appeared in the Batman TV show a few times as Kato, trusty sidekick to the Green Hornet, in a few episodes where the 2 superhero TV shows would cross over. Number 2. Life after the Batman TV show. The Batman TV series had been cancelled in 1968, but that wasn't the end of this rendition of Batman and Robin. Oh no, far from it. Both Adam West and Burt Ward reprised their role of Batman and Robin in the animated cartoon series The New Adventures of Batman, which was released by Filmation in 1977. There was, however, some bizarre things about this show, like why couldn't they get the colour scheme right in Robin's logo, and why was the Riddler wearing pink? The series also featured Batmite, who is without a doubt one of the most unlikable additions in the Batman saga. Then in 1979, West and Ward appeared as Batman and Robin in a two-part live-action TV special titled Legends of the Superheroes, which also featured other DC heroes such as Green Lantern, The Flash, Hawkman and Captain Marvel. But the show was played entirely for laughs and even featured a laughter track. And so the show really wasn't received well, as by this stage Superman the movie was now out, and superheroes were now being seen in a more serious light and less like a spoof. Even in the comic books at that time, Batman was becoming more predominantly darker. Then in 2003, when the Batman TV show was seen in a more retrospective light, when it was okay to once again enjoy its cheesiness, both West and Ward returned in a made-for-TV movie called Return to the Batcave, where they play themselves and decide to go on a quest when the Batmobile prop from the TV show gets stolen, and along the way they reminisce about their time on the show, with actors playing their younger versions. So the movie is part documentary, part comical biopic. The movie actually feels like an odd mix of tones and genres, as the scenes with West and Ward feel every bit cheesy and comical like the TV show, whereas the flashback scenes feel more serious and tackle mature and upsetting themes. It's literally like two movies mashed into one. Plus, in the movie we learn of an incident in which, during a one-night stand with an extra on the show, Burt Ward nearly got killed when his lady friend got a knife and tried to stab him. Then finally in 2016 and 2017, West and Ward returned in two animated movies, Return of the Caped Crusader and Batman vs. Two-Face. And it's great seeing the world of the TV show return after all this time. And the movie perfectly captures the cheesy feel of the show, while also addressing modern pop culture themes. For example, it was great hearing Adam West say the Michael Keaton line, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts," along with Batman and Robin talking about how disappointing the end of The Dark Knight Rises was. The Return of the Caped Crusader is the better of the two movies. And now Adam West has sadly passed away, there probably won't be any more. But hey, at least we got to relive the magic of the TV show those last two times. Seriously, if you're a fan of the 1960s Batman TV series and you haven't seen these two movies, then what are you doing? This is where you're going wrong in life. Number 1. Different actors who might have played Batman and Robin. One of the greatest aspects of the Batman and Robin TV show is the on-screen chemistry between Adam West and Burt Ward. Together these guys are very enjoyable, and you get the feeling with these two that they knew that the show was one big joke and ridiculous, and they were just going to go along with it. And I think that makes the audience feel that it's okay to watch the show and be engulfed by how silly and insane it can be at times, as the audience was in good hands thanks to West and Ward. In other words, Adam West and Burt Ward totally made the show the success and remembered classic that it is. However, that nearly wasn't the case, as during the casting, two other actors were considered for the role and auditioned, those being Lyle Wagner and Peter Dale. Their screen tests were fine, but they don't quite have the magic of West and Ward, and were maybe a little bit too serious and straight-faced. Wagner would eventually go on to star as Steve Trevor in the Wonder Woman TV series. But regardless, West and Ward got the roles, and thus one of the most celebrated Bat chapters in Batman's history happened. A time when it was okay to laugh at and with Batman. Okay, so that was my look into the 1960s Batman TV series. I hope you enjoyed this Bat episode and hit the Bat thumbs up, and even become a Bat subscriber if you really enjoyed it. The Batman TV show wasn't really meant to be taken seriously, but that's okay. That doesn't take away any less enjoyment. And I still get enjoyment out of it these days, as it's definitely a guilty pleasure. Anyway, I'm Minty and I'm off to practice the Bat dance. See ya!